I've said it plenty of times. I'll say it again. I do not have a face for high definition. So, if it's a little out of focus, it might be better.
It's like
I feel like I always think about the it's been like probably since the 80s, early 90s, right? Where like weird looking dudes were able to be popular. You remember like your Danny DeVitos of the world, right? Like you don't get those anymore. And I wonder if it's just because this was all like pre-high definition. We kind of it was easier to be. It was easier to be. You can get away with being a little freak pre-HD. That's my new theory that I'm just putting out
just
there.
Whether, humor will take you further, but now,
Now you just got to be pretty imperfect because everything's all it's too high definition.
Oh man,
yeah. Well,
super high definition.
There's nothing like starting off a conversation about reasonably lo-fi art, which we'll get into.
I love how you just said like lo-fi art. That's a big compliment, actually.
Well,
that's a big compliment.
Nothing like starting off a conversation about lo-fi art than making jokes about high definition. You've already been on camera, but without further ado, everybody make some noise. The one and only Fuzznaut is in the building.
I don't know where to look, but I'll just wait.
You
wait. Yeah, it's like audio and visual over here.
We'll just fix your eyes with AI to make it so you're always looking directly at the camera. It'll be very natural and it'll make everybody feel very comfortable when they're watching.
Oh yeah, the most comfortable. Yeah. We should just quit then. You should just put a prompt in.
Yeah.
Right?
This entire podcast is brought to you by prompts.
By AI prompts. Yeah.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
It's nice to be able to sit down and chat with you today about, like I said, just the concept of art, creating art, sharing art with people, having this be a part of your life, forcing it to be a part of other people's lives, and all of the...
I really try not to force it, even though it feels like it when you're promoting something or trying to like put something out there.
Yeah, and the way that things are today, I'm sure we'll get into it, but yes, I 100% agree with you. So, for anybody out there in the world that is not familiar with what you do as Fuzznaut, why don't you tell the people?
A lot of people are unfamiliar.
People have probably seen you and still don't know what you're doing.
I play. Actually, because I've been reevaluating what just in my own reflecting, like what the heck do I do? I'm on the tail end of I just self-released a record, and that was a big undertaking, and now it's like reinvention and taking it slow, but whatever. But in doing a record, I did everything but the artwork and like the mastering. So I would like to call myself actually a composer or soundscape artist rather than even say like, well, I do guitar is the main medium, but I bring in all kinds of other stuff. With guitar usually in the forefront.
Sure.
So that's it. So yeah, Convo, it used to be like one man drone metal thing. But I like to expand on that. I think that was even in the beginning, and now it's like after all I put out so far, I feel like such an old timer, even though I've 7-ish years doing this. I feel more comfortable saying like having that / like guitarist / songwriter / composer / sound designer / soundscape artist, that type of thing, rather than just being like one man band, dude, which is great. I love it. I do love it, and that's definitely like a beginning, like kind of accolade or something to get like pump me up. Like,
yeah,
before shows, I would listen to rap to like pump myself up. It's really is just me. And even in the introduction, I'd taken a step away from music. Like, oh geez, before the play, so many things have happened. Good old 2018, 2019, when I decided to come back in here, I didn't know anybody. So I would just go on the socials and see what shows were playing and be like, okay, does something hit? Is something close? Like that would accept me. And then I just like slide into some comment sections and DMs and just be like, I'm this one man. Well, I would just say I'm Fuzznaut. I wouldn't say like I have this band Fuzznaut. I would say like I'm not a one man person, just so I wouldn't get rejected.
Yeah.
Even though rejection is a big part of this. Not unfortunately, it's just part of it, part of the experience. But yeah, that was a long-winded kind of, did I even answer that question, or is it too much? All right.
No, totally. I think that referring to yourself and what you create as being more the work of a composer actually helps. I think it helps frame it better, because at least from my perspective, when I'm going to interface with the work of somebody that is a composer, or like somebody doing like soundscapes or drone or ambient or whatever noise, like you're kind of intersecting all this
everywhere.
stuff. You have to, I feel like you need to turn on a different part of your brain than if you were like, oh, I'm going to listen to a band. They're different things, you know what I mean? It's almost like, oh, am I in the mood for a cheeseburger, or am I in the mood for an ice cream sandwich?
Yeah.
They're very different things. Both good. Both have their rightful places in society, but you have to interface with them differently. So I think putting that label on it makes a lot more sense to me.
I feel it's a big label, but it also makes sense as I'm doing the things. Yeah. It's like a Surgeon General warning of like Fuzznaut music, plus it's like all these things, even though it's like one person.
Well, also too, I imagine like it probably makes sense like when you're starting out doing this as like somebody that is doing solo instrumental music, that is, there's no drums, there's no backtracks, there's no anything other than the sounds that are happening in the moment, right? But it is all inspired by heavier music for the most part. So you're getting a lot of like droney, doom metal adjacent sort of sound that's happening in there. But as you continue to create, like how long can you keep doing that? Right. So I find that you probably need to start expanding with different sounds, different textures, less distortion, more this, more that. And it kind of maybe strays away from being so like metal adjacent, but that might be a necessity if you want to keep doing stuff and keep it interesting, right?
Yeah. As far as it's like my good old pedal board, which is the other member of the band, that I always rip it apart and not commit to anything, and I never say like this is the pedal and this is the thing. I've even grown away from saying like I must have a fuzz pedal because of the Fuzznaut name, just to do that. It's so corny, but at first I was like, I have to have it. Like, sort of the part of the name or like sonic, whatever. But then in the end, it doesn't matter. And also you could, I think knowing enough, and I think the composer and soundscape artist and sound designer side oddly comes from there. And it also helped me learn how to mix that stuff. Because even YouTube tutorials are great, but it's really hard to find one that says just guitar stuff. A lot of drums, a lot of more power to it, and the more and in knowing sound and things like that, of course, it's like very important. But something about how do you layer guitars, and all you got was really like chugga chugga of super technical metal, and you had a dude like, who's that dude? Joey Sturgis doing his like, let's line everything to the grid and do like. I was like, I'm not interested in that. I want to know how do I layer these weird sounds that sound like they were made, basically like all the records I liked. There's still some element of like, definitely like this is like my skills like not technical at all, but like there's a very technical side to heavy music that I applaud, and it's gymnastics and like very physical and on the thing. But there's also another side that's very abstract, and in that noise thing, have noise being like a song and part of an element of something that it just right at all elicits a feeling. So I lost where we were starting at. I lost where the beginning was, but that's okay. To do that. Sounds and stuff, and how do you evolve? Yeah, it is that. Not I think it's like committing to where I'm at right now in sound. That's why I don't sing, because I think that's like one like a technical thing, but then my voice is like hand to instrument And even with some stuff I've been messing with, like actually getting into some like dub production and like, which seems completely opposite, but that's from learning mixing and mastering and how they did it in sort of that way of like similarity of they layer sounds, they might be found or they might be a band coming together and they just mess with all the stuff. And to me, that goes to like messing with sounds on a pedal board.
Yeah.
And then I can now do that in like Logic. So I think that's really cool. And that's also like the happy accident of like the whole goal, do my band thing and play live and like want to play live and be in front of people and share this music and this interesting type thing. And now like further down the line, I totally really more so. I love playing out, always down to play out, especially in this lovely city. But like the recording process is just like my new it's the new thing that really gets my heart beating about like music and just like, I don't know, it's like freezing time, putting stuff together, and then once it's done, it's like out there.
Sure.
I have this time capsule. So it's really, really cool. So yeah, like that's right. Like I get bored if it's right. I commit to this. This will always be my sound, and that's it.
Yeah.
And you can see even from the first record, I can't even do that. Even in a first record thing, in each record, it's like different gear, different sounds, different this. It might still be me with the guitar, but it's just, I'd say there's definitely like, hopefully evolution in that, because that's like kind of the name of the game is like about to evolve and just do something that's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, if you are continuing to put time into creating new art, one would hope it's new.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah. New and oddly enough, not really a cash. It's businessmen have tried and to cash in on music and just be like, well, just make the same song, and it doesn't work. And the biggest, most impactful stuff is like that would never work, and it does.
Yeah, I mean, there's for some bands it works.
So there's a
well, I guess that.
Especially in punk music, a formula is very comforting. Even though we want to evolve, like I've been in a really big Clash kick, but I was also in a bunch of Bad Religion too, and like they have a formula, but like with the formula, it's like I don't know, it's like it's okay that they don't do it, but it's also not my thing to be like it would be easier to be like, yeah, it's a formula or whatever, but that actually is like the fun part of it, of like getting into rabbit holes and discovering stuff and happy accidents and all that stuff.
Yeah, I think it's a conversation about like where, like what is the original intent of this band or this artist. I think it definitely makes sense for bands, particularly legacy bands like your Bad Religions, right? That, they are really good at what they do and they basically created something that is their own. There's not many bands that sound like Bad Religion. Many try.
They try. Yes, they try.
But they certainly try. But, and that's the thing is like, well, this works. This is what our fan base wants. And that's it. You know what I mean? It's like if McDonald's put tacos on the menu tomorrow, everybody like, what the fuck you doing? Some people might like it. But, it's just like, it's just not what we do. But I think with you being in that role, that self-described role of a composer and not necessarily like, oh, like I am a band, so the band needs to sound like this thing. It's like, I'm a person that just makes sound and it could be like whatever. That is definitely, I think, way more freeing and also just makes way more sense for what you are doing with, especially with like the limited amount of resources that you have sonically. Because like the one thing that I find really interesting about composing the music the way you do with only a guitar is that like on a sonic spectrum, scientifically, there's only so much that's going on there unless you really manipulate things to get your sub frequencies up or stuff in that high end. Like it's all in the middle.
Yep,
and it's all fighting for each other.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do you make that sound like full and lush? And, it's like, I imagine it's a continuous experiment of trying to figure out how do I manipulate frequencies that aren't there? How do I create them in a way without introducing anything that's too I don't know. I don't want to say like that you're like anti-technology because I don't think that's the point. But if the idea is just like it's me, a guitar, and a pedal board, there's only so much that's out there that you could work with. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. But also, it's weird, like, when you're thinking about, I think that goes back to, like, learning mixing and how actually vital and taking for granted that, like, self-taught, I won't even say I learned how to mix, but just figured out how to do my stuff.
Yeah.
Is that, I think one thing, like, great artists steal, like, good artists borrow, great artists steal. But thinking of, like, what did they do, or how did you get these two sounds to like come together? I think too, like, looking at if you contrast in music gel very well. So there's actually always a clean side, and then like the real distorted side, and then I just mush them together basically.
Yeah.
That's been a big like dynamic, and it's from a lot of bands, like not even in particularly like the stoner metal genre, maybe even in the more psychedelic genre and things like that. That would looking at their gear and kind of going, oh, I think it's in guessing, and I think it's that. And then when you guess and you like do it, it's always going to have like your signature or footprint because it just feels right to you. So it's a combination of all that. And it's interesting too. I think it's because I tune low. I actually have some more bass than usual too. So like I could kind of see it, but still, but there's no bass. And at one time, I was working on a record, and the guy who I hired to mix and master, he asked like, "Do you need more bass in that? Like, can I add more bass in this?" I was like, "No, it must be this way." And I would get so there's this like also like such stark ownership. Like I'm not cool with it. When it comes to this, I'm a pretty easygoing guy, but when it comes to this stuff and how it sounds, I am so possessive, and like anything that's off, I'm like, hey, that sounds like a bass is in there. I don't want that. Like it sounds like I'm like a hawk when it comes to those pieces, because I think it's just about, capturing that sonic feeling, energy, even though it's like slower, and I think by design to kind of keep you there for a while. It's in this sort of meditative, I find it too, like it's just sort of like my daily meditation doing music and stuff too. So it's also like part like spiritual in a sense of just like, this is a grounding thing. This is being able to put something together and then go back and listen to it and kind of be actually surprised about the struggle to like get it there. Cause it is like 1,000,001 decisions, even with just like what sound is coming next, then how are they going to mix together? And then, and also learning to, I think with like all art, it really is 1,000,000 little decisions. So yeah, it's a lot, even though it's one person and how to do, deal with the sound and things like that. I find it ends up still being full. And I think maybe I was thinking like technically too, why I don't need basses, because I'm tuned a little lower.
Yeah.
Which kind of helps fit it, but it's still nowhere near like, here's the bass and here's, and there's drums for rhythm, and things like that. And that's another hard thing I know. Some people might not wrap their head around is the drumless piece to it.
Yeah, for me, I don't necessarily think that what you're doing needs to have like low end in it by any means. I think it'd be really interesting just to figure out like how you're working within that limited frequency range, which is fine. But when you start like layering sounds and you have things looping, it has to get so tricky where it's just like when you start like losing things just in the mix because you only have that limited range to really work with, right?
Yeah.
I'm really curious about like how you go about like structuring the pieces that you do and how you write. Because, I feel like there's one of two worlds here. There's always more than two ways to do something, but I'm like, either this is like very much like I will just turn on everything, jam for a half hour, find something that's cool, and then try to base something off of that. Or I get very, very meticulous and I do everything like in a DAW and figure out sections that way. I don't know. How do you write?
For For me, it's actually the former more than the latter. Only one song that I've done, which was recently, it's the closer on my latest album, that I was like jam and try to keep it, which just worked. It was just flowing and had stuff set up. Like set up one thing too, like writing music or any art thing, set up is everything.
Yeah.
Have your space set up so as soon as you're playing, you could easily do the thing. Because if you got to set up, you lose that spark. So it's one thing's about setting up like the spark. So really like that's rare when I'm like, I'm gonna jam out and then here's a song and then I have it all done. So it's a lot meticulous. It starts with a part and it's gotta have a hook to it, at least a hook that I could feel. And a hook that's like, this is good enough to just keep playing. Like that gives me the energy, you know. To be like, this is worth something. And then like forming stuff around it. And then in arrangement. So I do in my head think like I have one part that is a verse-ish thing, then a chorus-ish thing, then a bridge-ish thing.
Sure.
And then also thinking of interesting ways to start and ending songs. It's very tricky actually. Because you don't want to, if you really want to do it differently and push it. And I think that's sort of one of the core things in this project is like pushing what I could do forward. How do you start something differently? You could have like a sweet riff, but there's another song I wrote that had a sweet riff in the beginning, and does that really emotionally, sonically? I think in the same thing, like that sonic emotion connection. Does it really need to do that? Like at the beginning of one of my songs, I did imagine some drums, so I had my son play some goofy little, like he was doing a practice play, but now he's like drumming now, which is awesome. And I had him just play some beats, and then I used like cut it up into little pieces in Logic, and just had a little intro because it was like I start to visually think of a song too, like almost like a soundtrack person,
Sure.
or what type of mood or vibe or whatever, and I was like. It was for one of my, like, I would say spookier songs. And cut those into pieces, add some weird delay and reverb on it to like set the mood and the tone of it. And it worked like, so it's a little bit of both, but much less on the jamming side. I think because when I got something, there's some intuition of like, yes, I will be able to find the other pieces of that puzzle. Because to me, arranging is more like pieces of a puzzle that aren't there yet.
Yeah. I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, because sometimes it's like, this is great, and I love this part so much, I'm going to get all this stuff around it to support it. And then other weird ideas like pop up. Like you have in all your projects, you know, a lot of different elements, a lot of different genres from like metal to electronic.
Yeah.
So I could see that too of like not being pigeonholed,
Yeah.
you know, and also like not being afraid of technology of just like, like if I need this, I'm going to do what I can to like get that down.
Yeah. For me, because like I got started making music by like making beats and like getting into hip hop production, but I was coming from like a rock music background. So it was never just like, oh, I'm going to make like an 8/16/32 bar loop and that's the whole song. I always thought of like, even though I'm making hip hop beats, there's going to be an intro, there's going to be the verse beat, there's going to be a chorus, there's going to be a bridge. But I was structuring everything like in a beat machine and then putting it on a DAW. And like I got used to like writing by building stuff in DAWs. And now it's really hard for me to write songs or understand how to like structure things without visually
having
seeing
the
it.
map. Yeah.
And then
absolutely.
like, you know, that gives me the space to be able to be like, okay, now like, do I want this to be longer? Do I want this to be shorter? Especially when I start getting into like the lyrical component of things, because that obviously tends to change like the instrumental base of things. Even though like I always write music first, I never have like lyrics for something and then I write a song around it. It's always the other way. But the lyrics, once they start to come together, that can sometimes dictate a part either being truncated or extended, blah blah blah. When you're recording your stuff, I'm really curious about, do you try to stay like pure on a single take of all of the layers of things that you do, like it was a live environment, or are you going wild?
It's not possible. I gotta go wired because this is if music would pay the bills, it'd be so nice. But this is in between, work, life. You gotta just get on when you can.
Yeah.
And my takes are so like, it's one thing because like the pieces are pretty long, so like I can't just be like 3 minutes one take, 3 minutes two take. It's usually like that, and then there are. I think I'm working through some habits with tracking that a big thing was like recording with pedals and having big tip though, your delay trails. So you would hit a part and then you have to make sure the trails are out. So then you can have those still there. If you're real, I've gotten better with like in the box like delay and stuff. So that actually it takes care of some of that.
Yeah.
But out of the box, because this is some of the stuff like learning yourself and learning a lot of setbacks and just learning things the wrong way. There's that like do the part, then go back, start the new part, but making sure your delays and stuff kind of like do that. And with the soundscape, and I'm creating an environment in the music. So like that is important because delay and reverb are like the space.
Yeah. And it's
sound.
like kind of unintentionally creating the rhythm that's not there.
Yep,
Like you wouldn't call it a
yep.
rhythm. Maybe it's more of like a pulse.
No, it's definitely the pulse in the rhythm. I
Yeah.
would say it's like the second guitarist.
Yeah.
That delay, yeah.
When you're tracking stuff, do you ever like just track like DI inputs and then like reamp through the pedals after you've done the takes?
Yeah, I've just started getting into that.
So you can like start getting like really nitpicky with your tones.
Oh
and stuff?
yeah, but it saved me out of. I think I had one song that like was complete. Like there was like a garbage take, but I had the DI, so it saved. That's a other like thing. Like DI reamp box is like totally very boring, but very essential pieces of gear because it like could save your take too.
Yeah, totally.
Like if just something's off or weird or whatever, but you you recorded it right. The DI is right.
Yeah.
So yeah. I've done it. And it's been nice too to do that just because then you could like think of different things. I would take like a delay pedal, hook it into the interface stereo and do some weird like I didn't know dub artists would do this. They would do this with like reel-to-reels and space echoes, but I was like doing it with my Strymon like delay pedal. And it was real like to add some like just some weird motion and just move the knobs because they emulated the tape delay and that makes the fun little like warping sounds, you know, and
great.
it's about warping space. Yeah. So that's a really good. This is like some pro tips here. You should put like a bring like pro tip. It was save some people, but yeah, being able to do that is like it's really helpful.
And it also kind of like helps you be able to spend more time doing the stuff that's fun. Cause like having to do like if you're trying to get all of those pedal effects live, like while performing and filtering and adjusting.
You're
gonna burn yourself out trying to do all that. It's like just do the take once or twice and then just put that fucker on loop and run it back through the pedals and let's go.
And just do it and layer it and do
Yeah, like with Normal Creatures, I perform live and I run my vocals through a pedal board. And when we record, I don't do in the box vocals. I just record all DI and I still run all of my vocal effects through the board, but I just do it post. You know?
Oh yeah, to like run it through.
Yeah.
And also you could mess with it and then you get into the fun thing of like that's a cool like the gestures. That's cool. You could do that like messing with the sounds and there's a lot with that. It's sort of like I have a love and hate relationship with the wah-wah pedal, but doing gestures with that is just the same as like kind of like the wah-wah pedal thing. And that's enough to people like that sounds cool. And then to like nerds like us about music, we're like, oh yeah, that's like a certain sound, a certain pitch. And how do we get that?
Yeah, it's cool. The thing there's a world where we use Ableton for our to run all of our tracks and our lights and our video and all that stuff. And I could run all of my vocal effects through Ableton. I could easily automate and program every single delay, every single pitch shift, I could do that. And that would be sick because then I could just run around like a little ding dong and things would just happen. But there's like this stupid like purity in me that like is like, I kind of like the fact that I could fuck this up. I could forget to hit the delay this time, or I could hit the delay, but the tempo's off. And it's just like there's going to be these human imperfections that I think just kind of make it feel more like a live band rather than like if everything's just kind of like, if every single thing is automated. I mean, granted, some things like the lights and shit, you know, those could be automated.
They'll take it. Yeah,
you
yeah.
know? I mean, if we get to the point that I can have a lighting designer coming to my shows to do it live, I would gladly pay for that. That'd be sick, but you know. Anyways, I'm getting off track.
Yeah, yeah. No, but I get that.
The human element
yeah.
of those mistakes is basically, that's the main point I'm trying to make, is like capturing those mistakes is cool, but sometimes they're just the mistakes too much and it's not good.
Yeah.
It's a fine line.
There's a fine line on how to like finesse mistakes.
Uh-huh.
And you could totally do that with the same thing. Like I could do a whole thing in the box with the laptop and have everything set and automated.
True.
You have to really love mapping stuff though, like on a computer. Man, that
you only gotta do it once though.
Yeah, but it's that right. Yeah, it's true. You only gotta do it once. I love that like flexibility. I think too that like you said, like the human element. I think that's also like you cashing in your like it's your time of like I'm in this, and part of me being in it is having control.
It's also
and
part
putting
of
at risk. Yeah.
It's part of the show.
Yeah.
That's the other thing too. I mean, like most of the time when we play shows, somebody will walk up afterwards and be like, what is that? Are you doing all that stuff live? Like if I was just automating everything, people would probably just think it was in the backtracks. They wouldn't even, it would sound a little cleaner. Things would be perfect, but I think it would be far less interesting to watch.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what's the point of like live performance if it's not interesting to watch?
Yeah. And even just like, I think to the person who's a concert goer, but not like a music, like, gearhead or whatever, there's always that curiosity of like, what's that? And then it like goes, and then the gearheads like us, like I'm the one at the end of the show, like, hey, nice board. What do you got going over there? Talking shop about that. But something there. I think there's an unspoken curiosity too. It leaves people, but just having them being curious, that's like the great human connection, right? Like art is that connection.
Yeah, I think, you get into the complexities of human nature and how it relates to art and how human beings interface with art. Why do we interface with art? And I think these are like really like complicated but simple things that I don't think people in our position take enough time to try to understand in terms of why doesn't anybody like my art? Why is nobody coming to my show? If they are at my show, why are they not enjoying it? Why aren't they sticking around? And it's just kind of like, well, you're not making a connection. There's the human music is a conversation between the performer and the listener. And if you're speaking in a language they don't understand, it's going to be hard for them to stay.
Often in times it's weird. It's hit and miss though, because I've had times where the language and a lot of people got it.
Well, that's the thing. Is like sometimes they might not get the language, but it could still be intriguing. Like listening to, I mean, we're talking about music, but like listening to like foreign music with a foreign vocal, right? With a different language. Like sometimes like you might not understand the language, but you can feel the emotion. So I think that's the matter. Like that's what I think is really important. What you're doing and what really anybody's doing with music is like, how do you convey an emotion that's going to get through to people? Because like, let's be real, even if I'm on stage performing songs in a language that people understand, they don't really hear what I'm saying in the moment, right? They can't articulate every single word coming out of my mouth. So even then it's a conversation about emotion and being able to resonate with what the performer is putting out there in a way that is like almost uncontrollable, where you're just like, wow, I'm really into this and I feel motivated and moved or just like intrigued enough to continue watching. And I think about that like whenever I'm like making stuff, like is this interesting? I don't know. And it's hard because like you have to have some like tough conversations with your ego. I think sometimes I have a really tough time. Like I used to spend a lot of time never like sharing work that I was doing until it was ready to go. Like I wouldn't show it to anybody. and I'm trying to get better about that. And like, we're working on some new stuff, and I've shared it to some people, and somebody's like, I think this part should be shorter. And I'm like, fuck you.
That ownership.
But then 10 minutes later, I'm like, you know what? I mean, like, the reason why you're showing this to people is to get this feedback. And maybe they're right. Maybe, I don't know.
The feedback is being a composer. One, my wife oftentimes gets the feedback, and she's not she's not a musician, but she'll listen. And I ping pong off her because she's also incredibly honest, and she'll be like, that's way too loud, or that's way too tinny, or that's way too this. And then sometimes, though, the thing too is like, I also have to you also have to defend that in some senses too, because sometimes I'm like, this part it is the part, and I don't care. And some of the other times too, like, it's weird. Like, I put out my music for an audience, but in the end, it's like, I'm a much happier person doing this. So it doesn't matter, like, in that sense. I think that thing too, like, take it or leave it. Would I love this, some crazy following, or just like having that cool credit, be like, yeah, like, you got the Fuzznaut thing, whatever. Absolutely. However, I'm not going to stop. That's not conditional to me. It's really being able with new technology in this stuff, to be able to have my own little recording studio, put out some music. Maybe people will get it. And that, I think that's that little connection, just that little bit of connection's like enough for me. But you definitely, like, criticism's good, because I know sometimes, and I think that's the ego thing. I know sometimes that I could get married to a part, but is it exactly the right partner for that part? And there's been whole songs I've scrapped because I'm just like, this doesn't fit with the record. Like, I'm not afraid to, as they say, like, kill your babies.
Yeah.
I could leave it on the cutting room floor, and it's fine. If it doesn't, like, I had a whole extra song. I was like, well, that's done. Now I have to write one for a record, which I don't usually do. And I didn't think I was gonna like it. And it ended up being one of my favorites. Of actually, like, I need a song for the record, which I'm never like that. But for this thing, I was just like, I have this set, I want to have this, and it ended up working out pretty well. So, like, being open to that, being open to criticism. I've been able to share some stuff, like, to some people on Discord, like I'm really proud of this part. Let me, like, just pass it on and take some stuff. So it is true, but I also get that thing of, like, how personal this is, and how personal we get into our writing, that, like, right, like, you need to condense that part, right?
Yeah.
Or you need drums, which I've gotten, no one's ever, like, beaten me over the head with it, but I've got some subtle things of kind of like, well, where's the drummer, and, like, things like that. But yeah, just being open to it. I find myself not getting too wrapped up in that, but maybe it's because, like, I don't have it's just me, so there's not a lot of politics. But I also do seek the feedback, because it helps, because a part could be really bad, and having someone, or even some people, like, general interest, like, they could give you kind of knowing where you could get decent feedback, and not just like, that's, like, good, or it sounds like a guitar, or it sounds like this, like, so getting some of that honesty, and then the final choice, I think, as an artist, to take that or not. If I'm willing to fight for it and have something so strongly, like, to keep it, then I feel like it should be there. But then on the other hand too, if I'm willing to kind of give it away, but like, oh yeah, that's right, it is kind of crap, like, I don't need to do it, like, that's okay too. It's back to that, like, art in the end is a million little decisions.
Yeah. I have there's a few things I want to say. Trying to figure out the right order to do this. But okay, so the first thing I will say is that, like, when it comes to creating art and having these decisions, for me, I find that I really try to stick by the idea that, like, your first idea is your best idea. Like, whatever inspired you to sit down and pick up whatever and start recording, you should probably go with that. If you start overworking the dough, then get rid of it. But also,
the overbaked, yes, I agree. Yeah, I've overbaked some stuff I've burned some stuff and been able to throw it away. Yeah.
But much like making a loaf of bread, right? Like sometimes a song, like I might maybe like this chunk, my first idea, we're just kind of like getting the dough together. Now I gotta let it rest. So maybe sometimes it's not the worst idea to step away from something for a week or two, come back to it with fresh ears when it's ready to go, and be like, okay, now I know what the next thing this needs. So I think sometimes my mistakes come from trying to do too much or trying to finish an idea altogether rather than letting it rest and getting so caught up in this and like how I was feeling in the moment and feeling like this is the best thing because it happened so quick. And it's like, sometimes that's good. Sometimes it's bad. Like we have a demo that we just finished for Normal Creatures. It's fucking awesome. The song came together really quick. Lyrics came together really quick. Super easy. Sounds great. One of my favorite things we've done. I wish it was
stoked. Yeah. Like this.
I wish it was all that easy. Now the next track we were working on, the song's been a little bit trickier to write. It's more complicated. There's more parts. Lyrically, I'm nitpicking some things. It's just taking a little bit longer. And it's like, shit. Does that mean it's going to be bad? No, it's just that like it's a different song. It's a different recipe. It's a different item of food. It just has a different cooking time. And I need to be patient with it. The other thing I will say is that I think there's also a world too where this is me being a little silly. Like I get into disagreements with like bandmates over how a part should be and like say I like really, really like something. It's like, well, I record everything. So really, I could just keep this version of the song for myself and then whatever the rest of the world gets, they get. And I still have my version.
Yeah.
It's my little
producer's cut.
Yeah.
Right? The producer engineer mix. That's the other slash. Yeah.
And then 15 years down the line when they release my box set, and I'm all they could put the unreleased cuts on there, right?
Oh yeah, the deep cut, like the Beatles edition, where there's just so much. That's like fun though.
Yeah,
hearing that like the weird idiosyncrasies and just like this is actually real. The demo tape, like this is like really bad, but it's great. Like not the polished song. I think that's another thing that gets like really lost in the sauce with music because we just hear like the mastered version, right? There's 1,000,000,001 versions way before that. There was a whole like giant book of like what was, and then what people hear is just like the cover.
Yeah, I'm a big like theme park dork. I'm a dork with most things in my life. One of them is theme parks for sure. And one thing that actually made me feel a lot better about my like creative output, not in terms of like what I work on, but what is actually released, is like learning so much about like most of like your bigger theme parks, like your Universals or your Disneys or your Six Flags, like all of those, like a large majority of the stuff that they like put into like development and they will spend tons of money and time working on never actually comes to fruition. Like these are ideas that they work on for years that, just at the end of the day don't work for one reason or another. And to me, it's like, that's like my like songs that I didn't release, or like a band that I tried to make work that didn't work out, or like a music or whatever, it's just like even these huge companies with godlike resources,
tons of money,
even it happens. That's just it's a natural part of the creative process where you're just going to have things that don't work out, things that not everybody likes, things that maybe, you like today, hate tomorrow, reverse things maybe you hated, now you love. It's all part of it.
Yeah,
I think the most important thing is just to do. Just keep creating.
Keep doing. Yeah.
As long as you're happy. If you're not happy, I'm not qualified to have that conversation.
Yeah. But well, that's the thing. Like, say that I've been a much happier person like with doing this in my life than without, and I think it's just innate nature of like creating, and I think what you mentioned with the theme parks and like that sense of like they had their own like process too, even though it's like a money making thing. There is tons of they had to hire artists and designers and they're creating a space, and in that space, like some things work. And I bet you like they have to think about who's going to show up. I think that's kind of freeing. I think for something as weird as what I do is like, I don't know who the heck's going to show up. I don't even know where I'm going to play. So I've had some interesting places that I've been able to take this project that I wouldn't normally take it because it's just such a small operation when I go out and play me and the guitar and the amp and pedals. So like, to think about like even something at that scale to this small scale and some of the advantages of being a bit more obscure, which I think is interesting. And I think that's more the me thing too. Like I love like just like weird obscure stuff. And even when I get into like horror movies or comic books or just reading, all the weird obscure stuff, like I love Batman and all the mainstream stuff too. Something about finding, and this is from my youth of like treasure hunting. I think music's another sort of treasure hunt too. Like sound, I would say sound design and pedals and things like that. That's like the treasure hunt piece of it, where you're just like, this sounds weird. I need it. I don't know why. Because that's the other thing. Like, why do we like stuff, right? Like, why are we into, why do we nerd out about this stuff? And there's a million different reasons. But I think for me is like the chase of that too. So I think that's the other creative side of like, you don't quite know what you're looking for, but you're using your feelings to like to guide that. And feelings in the sense of just like, I don't know, there's this thing that I just need to get. There's this little nugget, whether it be like information or an interesting little factoid about something, or like a sound that's just like, I don't know why I need this in my song, but I need it, because it fits or whatever. It's like when you think of arrangement, the puzzle piece, like I have the biggest puzzle piece. I kind of have a sense of where, at least emotionally, it's going to go. Then there's a bunch of like empty ones.
Yeah.
And then how do I find, the thing is then we have to create the puzzle pieces.
Yeah.
Versus like, here's the box, there you go, and like do that.
That happens with me a lot. That's like how I interface with like sampling in my music, which I still do in like very obscure ways for normal creatures. A lot of the times, like a lot of the stuff that way I'm using the sampling process now, most people probably wouldn't catch it unless I tore apart all the stems and showed you like
here's the sample.
like this is this is like a reversed violin thing that's been knocked into key of the song and is like weird, but it is a sample. And like that's like 9 times out of 10, if I'm like struggling with feeling like something's empty, I'll just be like, okay, it's random sample time. What am I gonna do? Just start like looking through records or movies. Like what can I get? And most of the time I'll just grab something random and just try to make it work. Like there's no, like it's like literally, it's like the equivalent of like, I don't know if you've ever been in the position of like being like, well, understand, like, I don't know if you like drink or anything like that. But like the perception of like coming home late, drunk, opening up the fridge and the cabinets, and I'm just going to make something work. What do I got? That's my approach to sampling, basically.
Yeah.
It's like, there's no like, oh, I heard this thing and I'm going to try to make it work. It's like the opposite. It's like, I have this dish that's missing a spice. Let's try it.
I feel like I'm the same way with like presets, with like weird effects and stuff. And I think I'm starting to go over like, to get real, you should put like a disclaimer, like this episode's really nerdy, which is totally really technically nerdy, but like discovering that like, all right, so before we put stuff on tape, now everything is, let's say from the 90s, really the 2000s, like all home recording for the most part, if you're lucky enough to have a tape machine. And I know there's a lot that rebel, it's really cool, but like it's on the tape thingy. And then that's how people used to record. And then now everything we record in a DAW is a sample. And then somehow I was listening to a bunch of DJ Shadow and then getting into that. I'll love an artist and then want to learn everything about him. So I'm listening to DJ Shadow like last winter, and it just clicked with me. Like, even though I'm playing guitar in a DAW, that's a sample of what I'm playing. So it actually helps me like, it helps me record being like, okay, like I think a little like give it away instead of like that takes away I need a perfect take completely, because everything you put in a DAW is really a sample.
Yeah.
And then a sampler like manipulates it. So picking up on that and all those similarities, that's, I think, all right, so little puzzle, all right, the the 250-piece puzzle to 500-piece puzzle is a song. The like 1,000-piece puzzle is like you as an artist and all the stuff you do with it. So that like in my brain is like, oh, that's like, then I could apply all kinds of different stuff with it. And I was always already messing with samples too. Like there's this, sure other DAWs do it, but there's this program. I'm going to do it as so not nerdy as possible, but there's this program.
You could be nerdy.
Okay. But I've done some things which I really dig. At first, I just got a MIDI controller too, so MIDI keyboard with the drum machine and stuff. Yeah. So I'm getting there, for sure. But I've had a guitar part, and I like need some. I need to. I'm now in the. I'm now drunk looking for a different part. I'm like, I got everything, but it doesn't fit. So because it hits that primal and inhibition thing of like, I don't care. I need something different.
Yeah.
So I've been able to take that guitar part, have the computer read the notes, then pop it in a MIDI sample. That's what, but like in a MIDI sample, and then it's like, I want that to be a mellotron. So I basically steal that note and then create a sample with that. Yeah. And I think that's really cool. I did that without knowing what that stuff was before, but it's really cool. Some parts of just like, that's some of the secret pieces that just make it. Like I would definitely like, I don't like that weird sound. I'd be like, that sound has to be there. Like that gives it the like, I think going like, if we break down feelings from like happy to joy, that weird mellotron sound makes it to joy, right? Where like, all right, I'm happy with this, but joy is like the mellotron sound in there, or a weird synth thing. The one thing I overdo, as one thing, like back to like intros to songs, and then if I do have any people listen to my music, they'll be like, oh yeah, you're totally right. The beginning, like, I know drone part and drone metal, but a beginning atmospheric just like hum. I have to break that habit of doing that, because it's like how many times can I freeze a note and have it be like, even though it's cool, but it's like you're already in my environment. You don't need to know that you're stepping into my environment every song.
That probably,
I would definitely do. Like that's like a guilty thing of like, all right, like how many of my songs? If you're on Bandcamp and you hit the beginning of so many of my songs, it is like, burn.
I was gonna say, I feel like it's probably, I imagine like that would be something that's better for like a live environment that maybe doesn't translate to like a studio.
Well, yeah, studio and I don't know. It's weird. It works with, I think too, there's a couple things. I think it works. I think that's a thing like criticism where someone be like, dude, you need to quit with this like freezing the beginning of the song. You know what I mean? And having that, like, it definitely works great in live because I don't like,
because you don't want like silence in between pieces, right?
No that's silence weird, or no like bad jokes, which I'm guilty of some, or no talk. Sometimes I'm like talking, no talking. What should I do? I've gotten okay with it. I don't overstay my welcome with that stuff. But yeah, for recording, it's duct tape. I use it as musical duct tape. And that's the thing in the future, that's the thing I have to stop. Cause it isn't. Cause then also back to so here's like in the audience thing, definitely when you're on picking a track and no one listens to albums, well, people definitely do. The vast majority, I think if you're shopping, we're now in this big record store called the Internet, and we're at, do you remember CD Warehouse? I used to work at CD Warehouse. So like you would take your CD, go and listen to it. So like now it's just that of like, right, like, oh, okay, hit play, right, the first thing. I'm pretty sure it'd be boring, and I know myself as a listener too, of kind of going track 2, brr, track 3, brr. Just like, okay, when does it start? When does it start? So, and I think that's another thing of like thinking about the sort of intros and outros, because like you could have a great hook, but then do I always start it with a great hook? Do I always start it with musical duct tape? It's hard.
Yeah, because now you're tiptoeing around talking about writing songs with a formula, which is something that you don't want to do.
Yes, absolutely. But then you fall into your own formula, right? If it, or it's like the duct tape of like, well, this is what I got, or I want to. I think the other thing is we get so excited though about like completing this that we jump ahead, which is something I've consciously now put the brakes on. That like the next thing I'm putting out, I'm going to take as much time as I need. not feel rushed, not feel like I think the excitement is good. I was able to do that like and wait to release the last record. And like have that good sense of, okay, it does it back to like the bread rising. That's a great like analogy of like, because there is a thing of like when it's just right. And usually you have to wait longer when it's just right and have that. It gives you space. It gives you space to really think about it instead of like, I've had more regrets kind of like first release I had, I was like, it's done, Bandcamp,
Sure, of course.
Where do I put this stuff on streaming now? Like completely disjointed, not knowing the process. And this is even before like the TikTok out. This is before videos were dominating our social media. And then you had people telling you how to do everything now or the right formula. But yeah, like all disjointed. And now it's like the opposite of like taking the time, being really thoughtful about it. And more so just like for your own. So you have that time to like reflect and also putting it out the way you want to put it out. Like the way I put out this last record was so satisfying. I had an excellent release show. It came together with like the mastering and the artwork and just everything. And I didn't rush it. Like the record was done, like primary recording, everything was done was like 6 months, 7 months before that stuff happened. And taking time, just thinking about it. If I wasn't ready to put it out, then I think the things down the line wouldn't have worked out so well. So it's kind of cool being like, music is ready. Now I could think about the other stuff. Because I only have so much bandwidth. Even though I like doing...
Yeah.
It seems very ADHD doing all these things as a solo artist, but like it's like stages.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's the only way you can realistically do it if you're working with a small team. And I mean, it doesn't get much smaller than what you're working with.
Yeah.
You know, it's about as small as it gets. So, but it's a lot, you know, and that's also too, most of the time you start dipping your toes in things, especially when you're starting out, that you don't have any experience in. You know, it's like, sure, maybe I know how to play guitar, but I don't know how to record it. So you learn how to record it. Okay, well, then there's mixing, then there's mastering, and then all that's done. Okay, and then it's like graphic design. Do I do this? Do I learn how to do this? Do I get somebody else to do it? Who does this? Who's good? Who's not? What's a fair price? What's not a fair price? Photos, videos, playing shows,
yeah,
performing live. You know, what kind of amp do I want to use? Do I want to use a big one? Do I want to use a combo amp? Do I want to have all my big pedals? Do I want to do like a multi-effects unit? Those are questions I could ask you that we never got into.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have good answers for not, you know, what are your thoughts on a multi-effects pedal for what you do specifically?
What do you like? What's
like I'm talking like a big old hog, like a quad cortex or a helix.
Yeah. All right, my answer when I started would be hell no. My answer now is like, I've been looking at them. and I wouldn't rush to give it all. I think just the sound is so good now. Like it really is like, it's funny having I was like the YouTube, since I've been in this Clash kick and I was watching a song and I look at the comments and a dude on there, I imagine a person on there, hopefully not a bot. It was an old video, so it probably wasn't a bot. But they were like saying, you see this? No auto-tune, no nothing, no. There was complete, like, you know, unadulterated talent, right? Like, it's not...
Sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
And in my head, knowing how much I know now, I was just like, all right, man. Oddly enough, there was a time where I would have that attitude. But now it's like, are you kidding me? And I was like, you didn't know this stuff now? Jimi Hendrix would have used a model or multi-effect. You know? Like it's so they've been trying, and I think too, like those people who make that, I think there's a market for it, obviously, but like definitely the hate that used to be, I think, controversial. And now since it sounds really good, since it sounds as 90% there, you know, with the analog stuff. Yeah, I'm down with either one. Sometimes it's just like a cool different workflow or something different. However, I would always go back to at least just a comfort for me. There's a tactile ripping like not right, or I set up a board for a show and want the specific sounds and stuff. I love like ripping the Velcro.
Sure.
Get in there. It's not pretty. Like when I've posted boards and stuff on Instagram and just like, I know some people like with the cabling and everything are just like, oh my God. Cause people will set up boards and like,
I feel
commit.
This is my hot take on that.
Oh, about the cable?
Yeah.
The cabling.
I think
because some people are like, oh my God, the cabling. And
I think my hot take on this is I feel like people that are super precious with the way their pedal board looks in terms of cabling and things like that do not actually play. There's no way that you actually play your instrument.
Fashion show portion.
There's no way that you actually like gig out and play on a regular basis and still have the audacity to be concerned about things like that.
Yeah, the cabling.
Yeah.
I think too, it's like all it looks, because there's like you get in the weeds about cabling, and if you have in signal, like there's actually the science to like signal loss and losing high end and all that stuff.
I believe in that. Yeah.
Which is true. Also, Coley cable, like back in the 70s and stuff for some of like Jimi Hendrix tone, it killed some of the high end, which actually made like, made a difference. All those little, I believe there's a difference in pick too. Like now I have a bunch of picks like in my, on my desk where I record. Like in just different ones, and I do little experiments. First, I was like bullshit, and then like, oh okay, no, I would hit a thing and be like, oh my God, this is so different.
The guitar is such a human instrument, and is so like human in its voicing. It's a similar way to like if you are a singer, like literally like the shape of your face, your tongue, your teeth, your neck, your everything, all of that is gonna affect the way that you sound. So yes, if you have a different pick or a stronger grip or smaller fingers, bigger fingers, all of those things, you can go down to like the nuts and bolts components of what's in the guitar, what are they made out of, what's your cable made out of, all that stuff. But for sure, it all really, really affects. It's, that's the whole fucking like Eddie Van Halen conversation, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Like it was, you could figure out his guitar, you could figure out his pedal board, but you don't have his hands.
And people, back to the technical aspect too, like people can technically play. They could get 99% there, but that 1% is like me with the sample saying like, you have to have the Mellotron in there. Yeah, because that's I think that's right, like our human footprint. And I think that like evoking emotion is all those a million little decisions that we curate and commit to. And I think in how one of my favorite quotes is like artist communication, and like I think it is committing to that voice and it being so pure, and you're not saying something so straight up, but yet it's so it's also welcoming. It can be combative. Like there's some harsh solo noise guitar stuff that is like, oh, I don't know if I listen to this all the time, but still made an impression on me.
Sure.
And even just like that's, it sounds like, you put a microphone up to something grinding metal, and yet like I still remember that feeling, and I know it conveyed an emotion, and I don't even have to agree with it or constantly listen to it or say this is my absolute favorite thing, but I'll always remember that as like, hell yeah for you for doing that. Like that's excellent. Like one band, oh my God, way back when at Brave New World, there was this noise band called Air Conditioning. And when I first saw them, I was like, oh my God, this is terrible. I remember them to this day, and their show was amazing. Like because I remember that. I didn't even go back to listen to them. I didn't I didn't buy the record. I didn't buy their shirt.
Sure.
I went to the show, was, this snotty punk rock kid out of high school, and just like, what is this? I remember that as one of my favorite shows ever because of the lasting impression. Like the guy was on the vocals just like gurgling and making, and I was just like, well, they sounded like Air Conditioning. And guess what? I still now, maturity and just like, it doesn't matter. That's their truth.
And how many other bands have you seen that you just don't remember?
Exactly. You don't remember. Yeah, absolutely. There's tons of opening bands I don't remember. There's tons of national opening bands and, big bands or whatever that I don't remember, but right, the weird ones I think that are so unique, and that like it sometimes are like, I notice when I have a strong response, even like I don't like it, I'll eventually come around to it because it hits something in me. It challenged something in me.
Yeah, I also think that I think it's important to interface with art that you don't like. Like not bad art, like not like if it's like some weird asshole weirdo shit, right? But just like stuff that's like I don't like this. I think it's important to like I like to listen to stuff like that and try to figure out like what I don't like about it outside of just like, oh, this sucks, or like, oh, like I hate Drake, right? It's
Yeah.
Well, why? Like I'm going to sit down and I'm just going to listen to Drake and figure out like, what do I really not like about this?
What is not like resonating?
Yeah. That's like, and I think it's just like if you really, really care about music, I think that I mean, I guess you don't have to do it, but I would recommend it.
It's a good, it's a good exercise, or at least try. Yeah, like we have the opportunity to try something out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm not the type of person like I genuinely am not gonna like, or usually not gonna like go out of my way to spend my free time interfacing with stuff I don't like. But if I'm like out at a bar or at somewhere where like music's happening that you don't have control over, instead of being like, music here sucks. I'm like, music here sucks.
Yeah,
great.
Yeah.
What is this? Like pulling up Shazam, being like, oh, that's what that person sounds like. To connect the dots and be like, wow, I really don't like this. This is fascinating.
Yeah, even I find the same thing. Like, even if I don't like a song, I'll be like, what is like, and I don't know the artist or whatever, but I'm like, what is this? What's their deal? And it sparks that curiosity. I think that's so much a creative thing that I don't know if it's like we might be looking for the why, but like what connects or what gets us to feel a certain way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I usually do that. Look up stuff when like musicians like our band is like I feel overrated, and then I'll give them a test, and it's like the test listen. Yeah, sure. Like this is like so overrated. I'm like, okay, like let's see, but then that's still I think too like that's still I'm coming with that chip on my shoulder of like, well, I think they're overrated, so that's always gonna cloud that like judgment too.
Sure. Yeah, I had that. That was like Turnstile for a while for me.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I could see that.
I mean, like it was like that was a band that like had been floating around in hardcore for a long time, and like my relationship with hardcore is pretty hit or miss. There's bands that I like, there's bands that I don't like. I'm not like an active member of the community by any means, but there's some really good bands in that genre. And they were just like, oh, they're then like they put out that Glow On record, and I remember like people were just fucking glazing the shit out of this record. Like even people that like I know that like don't really listen to shit like that. People kept being like, you should check this out. I think you would like it. It's like mixing different styles of music together.
I saw Turnstile, the Altar Bar's basement or whatever. Yeah. I just saw a flyer that posted on Instagram, Facebook that made me think of that.
Like, and it was just like, like I was like, whatever. And then finally, like, it was one of those things where I heard something, like I was at a house and something came on and I was like, what is this? And I Shazammed and I was like, oh, fuck, it's Turnstile. And then rather than like me sitting down and listening to it, like trying to listen to it with that chip on my shoulder, me just hearing it organically without somebody being like, oh, you got to check this out.
Yeah,
it just caught my ear. I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to sit down and listen to this. And I sat down and listened to the record and I was like, you know what? This is a really good record. That's really all I have to say about it.
And just like, that's like, all right. I could see that because I think when it comes to like hardcore being part of a scene, and so in a sense, same like as metal to all these sub scenes and people being very tribal with it. Like when you because Turnstile crossed over, they crossed over a lot of stuff, and that what I love, like, I think if we were having this conversation in the 90s, like, did they sell out or not, right? It's not really a conversation. It's sort of like, are you hardcore or not, or something like that. I forget whatever the thing is, like, is it overrated or not, or how did they break through the mainstream or whatever like that. So it's interesting that, like, the cycles and what is, like, this underground covets it, and then, like, then it breaks out, which is, like, don't we want good shit to break out?
Yeah, like, and I mean, I think that it's just like it's really simple. I think that people will criticize like a band like Turnstile, or on the opposite end of the rock spectrum, a band like Ghost, right? These are very popular bands that write very fine music from my perspective. I really don't have anything bad to say about them. I don't have anything glowing to say about them either. The first Ghost record fucks really hard. I will say that. It's really good. Things are different now. That's fine. I'll even give in the second one, it's Flowers too. But but why do people like this? It's because like it's accessible. It's packaged. It has a formula. It works, and it's like accessible, but having enough of its own unique identity that people feel like they're a part of something special when they engage with it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So, yeah. I was at the last Ghost show in Pittsburgh. No. No. That was me and my kid's first concert.
Oh, so hell yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, like that's fucking music that's built for a big stage.
Yeah. Oh,
you know what
sure.
I mean?
Oh, like, their setup was amazing.
It
was really good.
I don't know. Like,
I get the hate because it is like Mickey Mouse too. I totally get the hate.
Yeah.
I totally get the Ghost hate.
But like, I think that it's just like, I think in order to like really, enjoy Ghost and maybe even Turnstile to some degree, I think you need to have a little bit of self-awareness and realize that even though you may like hardcore or you may like heavy metal, it's also okay to like smile every once in a while.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, to have that. Yeah, yeah. I think both is an interesting contrast with both those bands because it is that, hardcore is usually associated with like anger and like not even angry people, but some outpouring of anger. Where Turnstile does that, but is also like you mentioned, there's a smile to it. There's this joy to it. And same with like Ghost is like Satan, but with like a big smile on its face. And also knowing it's so theatrical and stuff. And I think that like that's right, like, kind of pick your poison, like either like it or you don't.
Yeah, well, I think like with Turnstile, like there's like I think probably a dramatic lack of masculinity for some people.
That's a big
and
oh yeah, that's
and
a big
for Ghost, it's like spooky, but it's not horror.
It's Scooby-Doo spooky.
Yes.
It's theater.
Yes,
it's like theater Scooby.
Yes,
like,
it's
the scariest thing about Ghost is like their detailed like skeletal like album cover. But that's it. Like
Ghost is way more like way more Andrew Lloyd Webber and not like fucking who's like a fucking horror director or anybody.
Or not like War.
Well, even War's fucking silly. Like that's the thing, is they've always been fucking silly. Some people get into specific like pockets of music because it like speaks to their very specific pocket of person that they are. Some people are just kind of like angry bro types that might resonate with real heavy metal music or hardcore or like aggressive hip hop. Like, there's punk rock. There's lots of pockets for people like that. And then there's people like me that's just like, I like everything. And that's like such a cop out, but like I genuinely do. And like even things I don't like, I tend to like in a way because I'm still able to learn something from it. Like there's very few things that I'm going to be like, fuck that completely 100%. And most of them have to do with like, political reasons.
Yeah, for sure.
And but aside from that, like anybody that's just trying to make like a genuine art from a genuine place, even if it's like cringy or bad or lame, in my opinion, it's like, it still has value to me.
You know what? I dig it. An interesting thing, and I'm not even a super fan of this subgenre, thanks to K-pop Demon Hunters, like our thing. But realizing that like I really love Bring Me the Horizon. But that's could be another like started right deathcore and then now being like huge. Their production lately crosses that stuff over.
For sure.
Like K-pop and J-pop, and I just like making that connection. I'm like, that is so cool. Like I love being like seeing that crossover and it like I'm like, how does this work so well with like their heavy music part? Like I think that's so interesting. And back to being like, the interesting is like K-pop can be seen as very manufactured, and there's plenty of documentaries and content about like here's our like K-pop maker farms or whatever. But having it still resonate with people is very cool.
Well, I think
and also going back to what you're saying before, like the global voice, right? Like the global voice of music. Like how did it break into another country, right? That's, you know, majority like that and just like take over the world, you know?
Yeah, I think that there's, I'll tell you what, we don't have the time to even get into that.
Okay, but to get into that.
But there's plenty.
Part two, the secret love of K-pop. Like,
well, I think that, you know, it's like, I could go down a
rabbit hole. Yeah,
we're gonna shut that door. But no, I think in general though, it's just what I can talk about in regards to K-pop and what ties in with the conversation that we've been having is that like the package of it and like the marketability of it. And I think that for a lot of people, that especially people that maybe aren't like necessarily like into the arts, but like music, like those people do exist. And I think there's a lot of people that like that kind of stuff that aren't necessarily fans of the arts, but they just want like a package. It's like, oh, like here's like attractive people on a stage doing cool dance moves, singing catchy pop songs with a bunch of flashing lights, and it looks cool and it's fun, and I'm entertained.
There's that, but the interesting thing is like the K-pop songwriting is dope. Like it's for a catchy pop song, their formula, and I'm not talking about formula, but it's cool. It's I don't know. It's just really, there's something about it that I'm like, there's a little bit more to something than sort of the typical like American, and me growing up in like the boy bands, right? And that was very like, even though some of those songs still slap.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, but that same thing of like, we're gonna like make these boy bands and do this thing in the package of that. Something, I don't know, something about K-pop like hits different.
I think the stuff that I've heard from a lot of K-pop and J-pop stuff too, that I've noticed is that it's not afraid to play with like really aggressive dynamic shifts. And a lot of the people that will be in these groups tend to have very, very different voices, and they all get highlighted in unique ways. And not only are they highlighting the voice, they'll sometimes like change the composition of the song to work with that voice. But it's still like a song that's happening. You know? It's almost you know, something that's really equivalent to a K-pop song structure is like how System of a Down structured songs, in terms of just like all of this chaos happening, but in like a small 3-minute like bite-sized thing. You know, you're getting like a whole world's worth of music.
You still have the singer's thread.
Yeah.
You know, that's like the singer's thread, or the guitar riffs thread. Like Aerials, that's like one of my favorite like the sort of new metal guitar performance too, from that intro to just like the riff that stays in the dynamics with that it's I can see that, like something about, I think, right, it's like, and maybe it's like American obsessing with package and sales to like yes we will K-pop's like, no, we will sell, but we also have talent, and that's the difference for us. And we're still making music. And maybe that's why that, like, I'm like, hell yeah, K-pop, right? Which even high school maybe like, oh, why are you saying K-pop? You know, but like, it's cool. Like, what's cool? Back to like liking everything. Like, whatever is cool is cool. You know, like the same thing with like, I don't even want to. I was gonna bring up that person's name, but I'm just gonna leave it.
Okay.
That like any of the Swiftie stuff.
Okay.
Even though I like some Taylor Swift songs. In the new one, I feel like I think for a music thing, just to touch on real quick, for a music thing, that being so huge, and I feel like if I listen to the new album, I have that chip on my shoulder right now if it'll be overrated. I don't think I'll give it its fair shake. But that's another thing of like package. But I like amazing talent, some amazing songwriting, and also production. Right, it's a whole other level, right? That's made for stadiums. It is made for that.
Yeah,
you know. So it's completely far away from a dude in his bedroom making soundscaping stuff. You know?
Yeah, totally. It's a much different. It's funny. It's like it's all art It's all music.
Yeah, I still argue it's what Taylor Swift does is still art, no matter all the stuff.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a different. It's on a different level. You know what I mean? Like what we're doing is like the equivalent of like you know, like we're like you know what I mean? Like we're like a small group of people like hanging out, like playing like a fun game. You know what I mean? And like what an artist on that level is doing is like that's like NFL Super Bowl.
It's industry. Oh,
every time.
Yeah.
Like every show is like a Super Bowl level event. And it's just like that's a whole different world. You know, there's a lot of nuts and bolts that go into that.
Yeah. So that's like trillion different decisions where we're like a million different decisions in our level.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Well, as the train rounds the station here today, not only do I want to thank you for coming on, I want to give you a couple minutes to make sure people know where to find your music, aka soundscapes, on the internet, and anything else you may want to say to the lovely people of podcast land.
You could find me primarily on music-wise, everything is on Bandcamp. Some of the older stuff is on streaming. Because streaming stuff, there's a whole bad thing, and as an artist, there's a whole other thing about that. But basically, like, if you could support on ethical means to support the artist, Bandcamp and or Ampwall is cool, and or purchasing a CD is very cool too. But you could find me if you're on the regular socials, most likely Instagram, at Fuzznaut. I think that's like it. Because I'm at the tail end of this thing. My last record, exclusively on Bandcamp and Ampwall, which I like that. That also satisfies the like. Can we treasure hunt a little more? Some of the stuff I value more is having to find it. You know, that's like one piece of it. But yeah, and then I'm around Pittsburgh, you know, too. Hopefully playing soon. But yeah, just hanging out. And then thank you for having me and braving this like snowmageddon.
Oh, hey.
Right now.
You braved it. I'm in the basement of my fucking house, man.
Yeah,
I didn't do anything.
But still going, you know.
Yeah. With all of that being said, that is all, folks. Thanks so much for being here one more time. Fuzznaut, make some noise. Woo!
Awkward.
I'll be back again. I'm going to insert the digital applause. We'll be good.
Excellent. Yeah.
I'll be back again next week with another episode. Same time, same place, same channel. You know the drill. My name is Brian Sykes House. Start the Beat is the podcast. 2026 is the year. And until next time, take care of yourselves. Take care of the people around you. Peace out. We did it. That was a podcast.
Awesome.
Yes.
We did it.
Hell yeah.